Hola, 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 buenos días, buenas tardes, cualquier hora que sea donde están, bienvenidos. Hey guys, welcome to the Spanish Code Podcast. I am Christian Robinson, the owner of Spanish Fit. With me as always, the Nell. And today we are going to talk about ing. Ing. I am talking. You are watching. And how we make that ing in Spanish. This is called the progressive, or the gerund, the gerund, or the gerundio in Espanol. Now, the gerundio is something that is a lot more common and a lot more used in your English brain. So let me show you how you use this in your English brain. In your English brain, you're going to say things like, dancing is fun. Ing. You're going to say things like feelings or buildings or other things that end in ing that are things. They are nouns. And you're going to say things like, I'm working tomorrow, or I'm dancing with Nelfer's mom tonight. And the last thing that you're going to use the ing on in your English brain is, I'm working right now. I'm filming with Nelfer. I am saying ing a lot. So the differences are dancing is fun, it's a description. Feelings, buildings, things that are nouns. I'm working tomorrow, expressing what we're going to do maybe later or tonight or tomorrow. And things I'm actually doing right now. I am talking. I am recording a podcast. So we have 4 ways that the ing works in our English brains. And the ing does exist in Spanish, and it is actually really easy word math. We're going to take our verbs, our AR, ER, IR. We're going to subtract that ending, and we have 2 new endings. Nelfer, how does it work? How does the ing work in Spanish?
Yeah, the ing words in Spanish, I hate saying that something is easy because in order to learn a new language, you need to learn everything. But when it comes to this one, I allow myself to tell my students, this is easy because you've been dealing with the conjugation. You know that we change the verb depending who's performing the action and when the action is being performed. And then you have hablo, hablas, habla, and all of those endings. We did it already in a previous podcast. But when it comes to the ing, it's easier because it's only one ending for every single verb, depending on the ending, of course, that you already know. The AR verbs, they are going to become ando. So the ing for AR verbs in Spanish is ando, ando. So if you have, for example, bailar, you remove the ending like you did with the conjugation in present tense, and then you put the new one, which is ando. And for ER and IR verbs, the ending is going to be a little bit similar, but you know that we have like a vowel that we use all the time to guide the verbs, and we're going to have iendo, iendo. So if you have comer,
Iendo.
Yeah.
Ando, iendo, ing. That is the ing in your brain.
Yeah, there's something that you can do once and you're never going to forget this rule is take a lot of infinitive verbs, estudiar, comunicar. You know this already because we have been covering them. And then remove the ending and you get the root. If I have estudiar, I remove this and I have estudi. And what's the ending for AR? Ando. So the ing word, the gerundio for estudiar is going to be estudiando. So what's the meaning of estudiando?
Studying.
Yeah. And then you do the rest one by one. Comunicando, practicar, practicando, which is practicing. Visitar, visitando. Do this once with 20 verbs, and you're never gonna forget this rule. Hablando, aprendiendo, teniendo, bebiendo, eating, comiendo, describing, describiendo, and living, viviendo.
See? Kind of important just to make sure your brain separates how this conjugation is different from like the present tense. So if I say estudio, I study. Estudias, you study. Estudia, he studies. Estudiamos, we study. Estudian, you guys are studying. You guys study. Estudiando has no pronoun attached to it. It is simply studying, right? So generally, we're going to get into this, but we're going to use it with another verb. And I'm sure you guys can already guess what that verb is because it's the same verb that we use in English.
But first, we need to look at some differences between, because he said how you use ing words in English, and in English, let me tell you something, you use it a lot. But in Spanish, we're going to use it only as an action, and we're going to show you how, because you can build nouns in English with the ing word. That's why you have words like building, beginning, the shopping, the feelings, right? But we don't do the same in Espanol. We have different words. We wouldn't say build. To build is construir. We wouldn't say construyendo as a noun. It's going to be an action. So we have different words for those, and we're going to cover them. And also you can use the ing for a subject of the sentence.
In English, you can.
Yeah.
You cannot do that in Spanish. So these are examples of what we can't do in Spanish. We cannot add an ing onto a verb to make a noun. So you're going to have to learn other words for those nouns. The subject in a sentence, as in reading helps you learn Spanish. We're not going to use the ing like that in Spanish either. We're going to use in that context, we're going to use the infinitive.
Yeah. If I were to translate these sentences in Spanish, I wouldn't say dancing like literally bailando. I would say, in this case, bailar. We take the infinitive as a subject of the sentence. We would say...
So basically the way the Spanish brain thinks that thought, like as a description, is to dance is fun.
Exactly.
Bailar es divertido.
The words for feelings and building, we have a different one. Feelings is
sentimientos.
Yeah.
Mis sentimientos.
Building, edificio. As you can see, it's a different word. We cannot translate literally every time. That's why we need to learn this at the beginning. Otherwise, you're going to be translating. If you learn the ing words in Spanish, you're going to be saying, okay, building, I need a verb and I need to put the ando, iendo. No, it's a different verb. We don't use ing as nouns or subjects of the sentence. When it comes to the future that you created with the I am working tomorrow, we don't say that in Spanish.
Actually, guys, you shouldn't be saying that in English either because it's incorrect. Because by its definition, the progressive, the gerundio, is something that is actually happening in the moment. So we actually use it incorrectly in English when we say, oh, tonight I am dancing with friends. So it's kind of unfortunate that in English, that's kind of where the language went. But in Spanish, we're going to be more true to how we use the progressive. So if we use the progressive, it is actually happening right now.
Yeah. And probably you're wondering, okay, you're teaching me the ing words in Spanish and you're telling me how not to use it. So how do you use it in Spanish then? Maybe, Christian, you want to tell them what's the structure that we build with the ing words, the ando, yendo words, and Espanol.
All right. Why doesn't everybody think about what am I generally going to say before? If I say right now, recording with Nelfer, what are we missing there? Right now, I am. Okay, so that is the verb to be. It's irregular, obviously, in English in the present tense. So sometimes it's hard to find when we're looking for this, but it really is really easy. Estoy, estoy, estoy. Yeah. So if I am doing something right now, we are going to form this with the verb estar. Yo estoy, tú estás, él está, nosotros estamos, ustedes están, and then we're going to add that ing. And again, that ing doesn't have a pronoun, so it's always going to be dictated by the change in that first verb, which is a star. Now, there are other verbs that we can naturally use this with, and they already exist in your brain, like, oh, I'm still cooking, or I continue thinking. So that part of the structure in Spanish is going to be identical. And we'll get into a couple of those other verbs that we can use with the Spanish ing a little bit later. But right now, we want to form some stuff with a star. Let's do it. All right, so before Nelver starts to conjugate this for us, we got to remind you guys, please remember to like and subscribe and leave your comments below. And you never know, maybe we are making a video for you very soon. Now, let's get to making the ing.
Yeah, so the verb that we're going to use with gerundio and ing words, is going to be estar. Estar, the temporary one, the status one, the one with place, the acronym place, position, location, action, and we conjugate this one only. So if it's for me, it's going to be estoy, and then we add any ing word that there is. It can be estudiando, bailando, aprendiendo, estudiando, like the one you have here. I am, and then you put the ing. It never changes. It's always estudiando for every single person. If you have you are, you already know this one, estás. And then you can say, estás estudiando, or estás comiendo. You are doing this. Estudiando, studying, comiendo, eating. What's the conjugation for he is, she is, it is? Try to remember before I put it. Yeah. And it's está. He is, él está, ella está bailando. She's dancing. He is dancing. Estamos hablando.
Oh, tenemos construcción. Están construyendo abajo.
They are building. Están, and then
Están golpeando la pared abajo. Maybe we can teach you guys a new word. It's called hijo de puta. Okay, guys, so that brings us to a correction. If I want to say I'm working tomorrow or I'm dancing tonight and I'm not really doing it in the moment, then in Spanish, I can actually just use the present tense. So that's one of the reasons why the present tense in Spanish is so much better, because I can say a lot more. All right, so I'm working tomorrow becomes estudio mañana. I study tomorrow. It doesn't sound that bad in your English brain, but remember, if you want to say I'm dancing tonight and I'm not actually doing it, just use the present tense. Bailo esta noche con amigos. Now, the last example here, I'm working right now, is correct because I'm actually doing it right now. Entonces, ahora, right now, o ahora mismo, estoy trabajando.
Trabajando ahora. Bien.
Sí. Now, if it's an ongoing process, like if I am getting to know Nelfer's mom, even though I'm not doing it right now, it's an ongoing process. So, ahora estoy, the verb is conocer, conociendo a la mamá de Nelfer.
Estoy conociendo a la mamá
de Nelfer. Porque es muy linda,
¿Crees?
pero es muy buena persona. Yo no voy a cruzar los límites.
Cruzar.
Oh, perdón. Yo no voy a cruzar los límites de nuestra amistad, señor Nelfer.
Not again.
Never again.
Okay. So this is the ing. This is the structure that you should know in order to express what's happening right now in Spanish. This is the way you're going to think. The only way to use I am doing something is to express what's happening at the moment. In English, I know I use it for so many things. It's not the same in Spanish because when I'm learning a new language, I'm not translating all the time word by word. Hopefully, like, we would love it if it was like this, but it is not. So sadly, we need to learn these little rules and exceptions. What happens if you mess up and you end up saying like, estoy trabajando mañana, I'm working tomorrow? They're going to get it. They're going to get it, yes. But at some point, it's better if you start like replacing and saying the actual thing that somebody would say as a native. Yeah, as a native. Bien. And then we have some examples. Remember, every time you're learning a new conjugation or combination, make sure you practice afirmativo, negativo, and the questions. Why? Because sometimes you say, I am not, and your brain is estoy and then not, estoy no. Remember, you always put the no in front of the conjugated verb. That's why it's
important.
An
example.
Yeah.
Yo estoy conociendo a tu mamá, pero no la estoy cogiendo. Correcto.
Más o menos es moralmente incorrecto. Morally incorrect, actually.
So I'm saying I'm seeing his mom, but I'm not taking her yet. And then obviously,
yeah, okay.
And then obviously the question is super important. So if I tell Nelfer that, he might ask me a question like, what are you thinking? How would you say that?
Yeah. ¿Qué estás pensando? ¿En qué estás pensando?
Sí.
So take a moment and check out the board, stop the video and try to translate these sentences. I'm studying hard. I'm not using Spanish in my class. Are you practicing a lot? Okay, if you did it, I'm going to say it now that I'm studying hard. It would be estoy estudiando duro. Estoy estudiando mucho. I'm not using Spanish in my class. No estoy, the no goes in front. No estoy usando español en mis clases. And finally, are you practicing a lot? ¿Estás practicando mucho? Remember that we use this little guy here, the opening question mark, when we're writing like official Spanish. It's not that necessary when you're texting or whatever. I don't use it, for example, when I'm texting with him or with his mom. But anyways, this is the way to use the ing for right now.
Hey, let's pull up the Spanish brain. So, guys, a great way to practice this, especially if you have someone to practice Spanish with, is to practice it with the verb hacer. Why hacer? Because hacer means to do or to make, right? So when I say in the present tense, hey, ¿qué haces? I'm saying, what's up? What do you do? It's like, what are you doing? But I can also just say it literally and say, hey, oye, Nelfer, ¿qué estás haciendo? ¿Qué estás haciendo? What are you doing, actually? And Nelfer's going to answer. So we'll just talk really slow, and we'll just try to continue to talk in the progressive, in the gerundio.
Yeah.
Entonces, Nelfer, ¿qué estás haciendo?
Estoy enseñando, which is to teaching. Estoy enseñando español.
¿Y a quién estás enseñando?
Estoy explicando un poco a los estudiantes en YouTube.
Muy bien. Entonces, I might say, oh, hey, Nelfer, yo estoy en Cali. Ask me what I'm doing in Cali.
¿Qué estás haciendo en Cali?
Again, haciendo. ¿Qué estás haciendo en Cali? En Cali estoy conociendo la ciudad por la primera vez. Right now, I am getting to know the city for the first time.
And then you can use the algorithm to build these questions. Let me show you. You can use the question word, what, ¿qué? And then estás is always going to be there when you're asking someone like you. It's always going to be estás. We don't remove this one. ¿Qué estás? What are you? And then the ing word. ¿Qué estás leyendo? What are you reading? ¿Qué estás comiendo? What are you eating? ¿Qué estás estudiando? ¿Qué estás practicando? ¿Qué estás viendo? Which is seeing. ¿Qué estás aprendiendo? What are you learning? So you can reply that now. And then another question words like ¿dónde? And then you can start like combining this the way you want. Like, ¿dónde estás practicando? Where are you practicing? ¿Cuándo ¿por qué estás aprendiendo español? And you add more. Why are you learning Spanish?
Yep. Every time you guys have our structure here like this, pull up your list of 50 verbs. Because you can go infinitively here. You can go infinitively. ¿Por cuánto tiempo? For how long estás viajando en Colombia? Okay. There's so many things that we can also put on the front end. Yeah. But this structure, it provides for a ton of conversation. And it's sufficient to describe everything that I am doing right now in my life. So it's a very, very useful tool, and it's really easy. The word math here is really easy. The ando, iendo. Now, you do see a couple irregularities here. So leer, we don't say L-E-I-E-N-D-O because two vowels in a row in Spanish is a little bit awkward.
You can see them, yeah.
So we just turn this to a Y. Leyendo, creyendo, oyendo, construyendo, trayendo. And the verb ir, we take off the IR. We don't add iendo. We just say yendo.
Yeah, you're always going to find these kind of exceptions when you're like conjugating because it's hard to find three vowels together in Spanish. Like if it was regular, it would be leyendo. It's hard to say. But there's something about the sound of the Y in Spanish. It depends on the region. But for example, here in Medellin, is strong. And the coast of Colombia, where I'm from, is softer. It's like leyendo. So when you're talking and you say leyendo, you mess up and you do it regularly, it's not a problem. They're going to get it. That's when you're writing, remember that three vowels together, they don't go together. If it's an I in between, I'm going to replace it with a Y to make it sound more natural. Like, right, leyendo, oyendo, construyendo, trayendo, etc.
You guys are going to see this a lot in the language in general. When a verb is irregular, usually in the middle part, it's because it sounds better. So this simply just sounds better.
Yeah.
The Y just sounds better. Even with the verb dormir, we have a slight change in how it's spelled, but it sounds almost the same. Durmiendo. That O just became a U.
Yeah, and finally, what we're providing here with this algorithm is the certainty that anytime you combine this with this and this, it's going to be a perfect sentence in Spanish. So remember this, practice with this. You can do the same with the double verbs that we already covered. But now, if you know them, quiero, necesito, tengo que, now add this to your grammar. At some point in this podcast, we're going to provide you like a tool to practice everything together. It's going to be the master hack of the level A1 in Spanish. We're going to do it later because we have a few more topics to cover, but I hope this was clear enough for you guys because, again, it's not that hard, right? It's only remembering the exceptions. I use it like this in English, but my Spanish brain needs to build it like this.
But if you guys just use this format, add more verbs, add more interrogatorios, but eventually, as your Spanish gets better, you're going to learn the verb seguir. And seguir means to continue, but with the gerundio, it really means to still. So if I am still studying, I'm not going to say the I am. I'm going to say it with seguir. I'm going to say sigo estudiando because that means I continue studying. But really, in the Spanish brain, that's how you would say I still. Or you might use the verb continuar. I continue thinking about you. Te continuo pensando.
Otra vez, continúo pensando en ti.
Continuo pensando en ti.
Okay.
Andar. Andar's huge, guys. Andar is like almost as important as a star in Mexico. We use it all over Latin America, even in Spain. Andar actually means to drive. So it's a perfect verb for a continuous action, a progressive action, an ing action. But we use it we don't just use it to drive. We use it to say basically I am, like in the middle of a process. So ando estudiando, ando estudiando, ando hablando, ando viendo a tu madre. It's a good one for raps.
Yeah,
if you're a rapper.
And you can also use it like a slang because we use it for I'm just doing this, like chilling, right?
Yeah.
So, ando viendo televisión. Like what are you up to? ¿Qué andas haciendo? Is the way we would say it.
¿Qué andas haciendo is like a cooler way. So you could say, ¿qué estás haciendo? But if you want to sound really cool, you say, hey, mujer, ¿qué andas? Perdón. Hey, mamacita, ¿qué andas haciendo?
Yeah, what are you up to? So yeah, you're going to be learning more verbs that you can combine with the ing. Remember, we don't use it alone unless we have it in the context. Like if he asks me, what are you doing? Can you ask me?
¿Qué estás haciendo?
Trabajando. Because it's in the context that he's asking me, what are you doing? And I can reply, just working. That's it. Trabajando, aprendiendo, because again, it is in the context.
So, all right, guys, a good brain exercise here. You know your interrogatories, you know estás, but why don't you just write down the entirety of a star? Estoy, on a piece of paper, come on. Estoy, estás, está, estamos, están. Okay? Now, think of a way to use it for each person. Just one time, and then say it out loud. So write it down and then say it out loud. Entonces, my internal thoughts come out a lot in this. ¿Qué estoy haciendo? ¿Por qué estoy haciendo eso? I don't say it out loud, but I think it, right? Like, what the am I doing, right? Okay. ¿Dónde estás almorzando? Where are you eating lunch? All right, that's a great question I would ask Nelfer. Mm-hmm. Now, I might ask Nelfer about his mom. Tu madre, ¿dónde está viviendo? Where is she living, right? And then for us, I might ask an actual question about where, a question I would ask in the present tense. ¿Qué estamos practicando hoy? So what are we practicing today, Nelfer? Like that's what you would hear in the Spanish version of this podcast. And ustedes,
are you guys learning?
Ustedes están aprendiendo? Are you guys learning? awesome, right? So you can write in the comments, sí, Nelfer, estamos aprendiendo. O sí, Nelfer, yo estoy aprendiendo. Super. So a lot of these thoughts, when you ask me a question, hey, Christian, ¿qué estás haciendo? A lot of the time I answer for us because we're doing something together. So, Christian, ¿qué estás haciendo? Oh, we are grabando un podcast. Super. So this is how your brain thinks in English. This is how your brain thinks in Spanish. Just remember the no-nos in Spanish, which we got to go over in a different class. We don't use this for things. So buildings, no. We don't use this for future actions. All right. We're going to go into a different class very soon about how to use I am going to in Spanish, but we're not going to use this time for future actions. And the last thing that we just will never use this for is it when your mind thinks of like an activity with a description. So like drinking too much is bad, right? We're not going to say bebiendo demasiado es mal. We're going to say beber demasiado es mal. To drink too much is bad, all right? Muy bien. Okay, guys, please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Please remember to leave us your comments. And please remember to study and stick with the Spanish. And we will see you guys again for the next episode of the Spanish Code. Nelfer, ¿qué dices?
Okay, nos vemos, chicos. Bye-bye.
Nos vemos. Chao, chao.